Captain Jeho Park pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation window. The Zephyrian mothership floated in front of them like a giant crystal mountain. Its surface sparkled with colors that changed as the light from nearby stars hit it. He had never seen anything so beautiful and frightening at the same time. "Are you ready for this?" Ambassador Mina Lee asked him. Her voice was quiet, but he could hear the excitement in it. She kept touching her diplomatic badge, a nervous habit she had developed over the years. "Nobody can be ready for this," Jeho replied. "We are about to meet beings from another world for the first time in human history." Mina nodded and looked at her reflection in the window. She had practiced her speech hundreds of times, but now all the words seemed to disappear from her mind. "What do you say to aliens who have traveled across the galaxy to meet you?" The communication system crackled to life. "Captain Park, the Zephyrion shuttle is requesting permission to dock," came the voice of Lieutenant Teeman's song from the bridge. "Permission granted," Jeho replied. He turned to Mina. "This is it. Everything changes now." They walked together to the docking bay, where a small crowd of human diplomats and scientists waited. Dr. Suho Kim stood near the front, his hands full of recording equipment. As the ship's expert on ancient languages and cultures, he would be the one to study whatever the aliens brought with them. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. The Zephyrian shuttle that entered was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It seemed to be made of the same crystal material as the mothership, but it moved without any visible engines or thrusters. It simply glided into the bay and settled onto the deck without making a sound. A section of the shuttle's hull became transparent, and 3 figures stepped out. The humans gasped. The Zephyrians were tall, much taller than any human, with skin that looked like it was made of pearl. Their eyes were large and seemed to contain tiny stars that moved and swirled. They wore robes that flowed around them like water, and when they walked, their feet barely seemed to touch the ground. The leader of the group stepped forward. It was carrying something in its hands, a stone tablet about the size of a book. The tablet was carved from white stone, but it was not ordinary stone. Light seemed to flow through it like blood through veins, creating patterns that moved and changed as they watched. "Greetings, people of Earth," the Zephyrian said. But its lips did not move. The words appeared directly in their minds, clear and perfect. "I am Keeper Veltar of the Eternal Accords. We have traveled far to bring you a gift." Ambassador Mina stepped forward, her training taking over. "Welcome to our ship. I am Ambassador Mina Lee, representing the United Earth government. We are honored by your presence." Keeper Veltar raised the stone tablet. "This is one of the Eternal Accords, the laws that have brought peace to our galaxy for 10,000 of your years. Every civilized species has accepted these laws and found harmony through them." Dr. Suho Kim moved closer, his eyes wide with wonder. "May I examine it?" he asked. The keeper nodded and handed him the tablet. Suho gasped as soon as his fingers touched the stone. It was warm, almost alive, and the inscriptions on its surface seemed to move and change as he looked at them. The writing was beautiful, with flowing lines that seemed to tell a story even though he could not read the words. "The meaning will become clear to you in time," Keeper Veltar said. "These laws are not just rules to follow, they are wisdom made. Solid peace carved in stone, they will help your species grow beyond its violent nature." "Violent nature?" Captain Jeho asked. "What do you mean by that?" "We have observed your species for some time," the keeper replied. "You fight wars, you compete with each other, you reach for things that are beyond your grasp. This brings suffering. The Accords will teach you a better way." The other Zephyrians stepped forward, each carrying their own tablet. The stones glowed brighter when they were close together, and the humans could feel something in the air, a sense of calm that seemed to seep into their bones. "These tablets will be placed in your major cities," Keeper Veltar explained. "They will broadcast the wisdom of the Accords to all who come near them. Your people will learn to live in peace, just as we have learned." Ambassador Mina looked at the tablets with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "This is a generous gift," she said. "But our people will need time to understand what you are offering." "Of course," the keeper replied. "We do not force our wisdom on anyone, But we have seen what happens to species that refuse the path of peace. They destroy themselves, and they destroy others. We offer you a chance to avoid this fate." Dr. Suho Kim was still staring at the tablet in his hands. Yes. The patterns on its surface seemed to be speaking to him, showing him images of worlds at peace, of beings living in harmony. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "We accept your gift," Ambassador Mina said finally, "and we thank you for your wisdom." The Zephyrians bowed their heads. "The galaxy welcomes Earth to the community of civilized worlds, Keeper," Veltar said. "May you find the peace that has eluded you for so long." As the Zephyrians returned to their shuttle, the humans stood in silence, holding the stone tablets. None of them could have imagined that this moment would change everything they thought they knew about peace, freedom, and what it meant to be human. 5 years after the Zephyrians gave humanity the stone tablets, Ambassador Mina Lee walked through the streets of New Sol Colony. She remembered this place as a busy city full of noise and excitement. Scientists had worked day and night in tall buildings, creating new inventions. Traders had filled the markets with goods from across the galaxy. Children had run through the streets, laughing and playing. Now everything was quiet, too quiet. The scientists no longer worked in their laboratories. Instead, they sat in gardens around the stone tablet in the center of the city. The tablet glowed with soft light, and the people stared at it with peaceful smiles on their faces. They looked happy, but their eyes seemed empty, like windows with no one home behind them. Ambassador Lee, Dr. Suho Kim, greeted her as she approached the central plaza. He had been one of the most brilliant minds on Earth, always asking questions and searching for answers. Now he moved slowly, like someone walking through a dream. "Dr. Kim Mina," replied. "How are your research projects going?" Suho smiled, but it was a strange smile. "I stopped my research 3 years ago. The tablets taught me that seeking knowledge for its own sake is a form of greed. True wisdom comes from accepting what we already have." Mina felt a chill run down her spine. "But you loved your work. Yes. You said it was your life's purpose." "I was wrong," Suho said simply. "I was chasing shadows. The tablets showed me that inner peace is more valuable than any discovery. You don't need to reach for the stars anymore. We have everything we need right here." As they talked, Mina noticed more and more people gathering around the tablet. They stood in silence, their faces turned toward the glowing stone. Some had been there for hours, maybe days. They looked content, but there was something wrong with their contentment. It was too complete, too perfect. "Don't you miss the excitement of discovery?" Mina asked. "The joy of learning something new. Excitement is just another form of restlessness," Suho replied. "Tablets have freed us from such primitive emotions. We are at peace now." Mina looked around at the empty research buildings, the quiet streets, the people who stood like statues around the glowing stone. This was not the humanity she remembered. Something was terribly wrong, but she could not put her finger on what it was. As she stared at the tablet, she felt its influence beginning to work on her mind. The light was so beautiful, so calming. Her worries about the colony began to fade. Her concern for the changed people began to seem foolish. Why should she worry when everyone was so peaceful and happy? She shook her head and forced herself to look away from the tablet. The moment she did, her concerns came rushing back. The tablet was doing something to people's minds, something that made them forget who they used to be. Meanwhile, on the edge of human space, Captain Jiho Park received an urgent message on his personal communicator. The message was coded, which meant it was secret. Only his old military friends knew the code. "The Rim colonies are going dark," the message said. "Something's wrong with the tablets. We need to talk. Come to Ironhold immediately." Major Daeho Nam Jiho had not heard from Daeho in 2 years. The last time they spoke, his old friend had been worried about the changes he was seeing in the colonies. Then Daeho had stopped sending messages. Jiho had assumed that his friend had found peace like everyone else. Jiho took a transport ship to Ironhold, a mining colony on the very edge of human space. As his ship approached the planet, he was surprised to see that the orbital defense platforms were still active. Their weapons tracked his ship as he flew toward the landing pad. On most human worlds, defense systems had been shut down years ago. After all, the Zephyrians had promised peace throughout the galaxy. Who needed weapons when everyone was peaceful? But Ironhold was different. The colony looked like the old human settlements from before the tablets arrived. People moved with purpose and energy. The mining equipment was still running. The streets were noisy with the sound of real activity. Major Dehonam met Jiho at the landing pad. He looked older and more tired than Jiho remembered, but his eyes were sharp and alert. There was no empty peace in his expression. "Thank you for coming," Deho said. "I wasn't sure you would get my message. I wasn't sure you would still be." "Yourself? What do you mean?" Jiho asked. "Come with me," Deho said. "I have something to show you." They walked to a medical facility at the edge of the colony. Inside, Jiho saw something that made his blood run cold. There were brain scans on the walls, dozens of them. Some showed normal human brain activity with all areas lighting up with thought and emotion. Others showed brains that were mostly dark, with only small areas still active. "The dark ones are from people who have been exposed to the tablets for more than a year," Deho explained. "The tablets aren't just making people peaceful. They're shutting down parts of their brains. The parts that make us creative, curious, ambitious. The parts that make us human." Jiho stared at the scans in horror. "How many people are affected?" "Almost everyone," Jiho replied. "Every colony with a tablet has the same problem. People become peaceful, but they also become empty. They stop dreaming, stop creating, stop questioning. They become like living statues. Why isn't Ironhold affected?" Deho led him to another room, where a damaged stone tablet lay on a table. "Our tablet was broken during transport. The psychic effect doesn't work properly. That's the only reason. We discovered what was happening." Jiho looked at the broken tablet, then at the brain scans. Everything was beginning to make sense. The Zephyrians had not given humanity a gift. They had given them a weapon that attacked the human mind itself. "We have to warn the others," Jiho said. "Warn them of what?" Deho asked sadly. "They won't listen. They can't listen. The tablets won't let them."
Out.
Mining ship Anvil floated in the darkness between dead stars. Its metal hull was covered with dents and scratches from many years of hard work. The ship looked like it might fall apart at any moment, but inside it was full of life and purpose. Engineer Youngsik Jang crawled through the narrow spaces between the ship's walls, his hands busy with wires and circuits. Sweat dripped from his face as he worked to make the ship's sensors stronger. Every few minutes, he would call out to the others about what he was finding. "The signal is getting stronger," he shouted to Commander Hannah Cho, who was waiting in the main room. "3 more ships stopped talking to us this week. I think the Zephyrians found them." Hannah closed her eyes and felt sadness wash over her. She had left her comfortable job on New Busan Colony to join this group of rebels. Every day, more human ships and colonies went silent. The stone tablets were winning, turning humans into peaceful zombies one by one. The Anvil was now the most important ship in the human resistance. All around the galaxy, small groups of humans had rejected the tablets or found ways to block their mind control. They called themselves the Forge Worlds because they were like sparks from a fire, small, but still burning with the old human spirit. Captain Jiho Park walked out of the ship's tiny war room. He looked like he had not slept in days. His uniform was wrinkled, and his eyes were red with exhaustion. But his voice was still strong when he spoke. "The Zephyrians are moving faster now," he said. "They're sending their ships to any colony that still thinks for itself. We don't have much time." Dr. Min-jae Ka looked up from her workstation. She used to be a brain scientist before the tablets came to her world. She had been one of the lucky ones who escaped before the mind control took hold. Her time trying to understand how the tablets worked? "I've been studying the pieces of broken tablets we found," she said. "The mind control is more complicated than we thought. It's not just making people peaceful. It's changing the way they think about everything. Can we fix it?" Hannah asked. "Can we bring back the people who have been changed?" Min-jae was quiet. "For a moment, maybe," she said finally, "but it would be very dangerous. Imagine if you suddenly remembered everything you had forgotten. Imagine if all your emotions came back at once. Some people might die from the shock. The room became quiet as everyone thought about this. They all had friends and family who had been changed by the tablets. The idea of saving them was wonderful, but the idea of hurting them was terrible. Major Daeho Nam entered the room, wearing the uniform of the Human Liberation Fleet, a new military group made up of the rebels, carried a data pad with information from across the galaxy. "I have news," he said. "We've made contact with other species who are fighting the tablets. The Corvin Mining Guild is with us. So are the Stellar Nomads. There's something else that might surprise you." "What is it?" Jiho asked. "Some of the Zephyrians want to help us," Daeho said. "They say they want to break free from their own mind control." Jiho's eyes widened. "Zephyrians? They're the ones who gave us the tablets in the first place. That's what makes it so interesting," Daeho replied. "According to these rebels, the Zephyrians didn't create the tablets to control other species. They created them to control themselves. Thousands of years ago, their ancestors made the tablets to stop their own wars. But the mind control worked too well. It made them forget how to be truly alive." Dr. Minjae leaned forward. "So they're prisoners, just like the humans who have been changed." "That's what they claim," Daeho said. "Some of them remember what their people used to be like. They were warriors, explorers, builders. They had dreams and ambitions just like humans. But the tablets took all of that away from them." Commander Hannah stood up and walked to the small window that showed the stars outside. "So we're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for everyone who has been trapped by these tablets." "It seems that way," Daeho agreed. "The Zephyrian rebels say they have information that could help us. They know how the tablets work because their ancestors built them. They might be able to help us free everyone." Youngsik's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Commander, we're getting an emergency signal from the Meridian sector. It's coded as urgent." Hana pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed the face of Colonel Byung-Ho Soo, one of the last military commanders who had refused to accept the tablets. "The Zephyrians found us," he said, his voice full of fear. "Their peace fleets are coming to our position. We need help right away." "How much time do you have?" Hannah asked. "Maybe 6 hours?" the colonel replied. "We're sending you all our research data, including the plans for a device that might free people from the mind control. If we can't continue the fight, maybe you can." The image disappeared, leaving the rebels to think about what they had heard. They were outnumbered and outgunned, fighting an enemy that controlled the minds of their own people. But they were still human, still free, and still willing to fight for the right to choose their own path among the stars. The battle for humanity's soul was about to begin. The liberation device sat in the middle of the Anvil's cargo bay like a strange metal flower. Its crystal heart glowed with trapped energy, pulsing like a heartbeat. Dr. Minjako worked on the final connections, her hands moving carefully, even though she knew how dangerous this moment was. "The energy wave will travel through space using the same paths that our communication systems use," she explained to the group of rebels gathered around her. "Every human colony connected to the galactic network will receive the signal at the same time. The mind control from the tablets should start breaking down within a few hours." Commander Hanacho looked at the star map showing their target. New Sol Colony glowed red on the display, one of the first human worlds to accept the stone tablets. She thought about all the people there who had been changed, their minds made peaceful and empty. "What will happen to the people when their minds are freed?" she asked. "You said it would be painful?" Dr. Minjae stopped working for a moment and looked at her friends. "Some people will die," she said quietly. "When all their memories and emotions come back at once, it will be like a dam breaking. Some minds won't be able to handle it. But if we don't try, then human consciousness will die completely. We're not just fighting for our lives, we're fighting for our souls." The cargo bay became very quiet. Everyone understood what they were about to do. They were going to hurt people to save them. It was a terrible choice, but it was the only choice they had. Captain Jiho Park walked to the communication console and pressed several buttons. His voice went out to all the rebel ships hiding in the darkness around them. "All ships, this is Anvil Actual. Operation Steel Awakening is starting now. May whatever gods still remember us, forgive us for what we're about to do." Dr. Minjae took a deep breath and pressed the activation button. The device made a sound like the universe was being torn apart. Energy rushed out of it like water from a broken dam, racing through hyperspace toward human colonies across the galaxy. On New Sol, the great stone tablet in the center of the city began to crack. The people who had been standing around it for hours looked confused as the hypnotic light started to flicker and grow dim. They had been staring at the tablet in peaceful silence, but now they began to move and talk. Dr. Suho Kim was standing closest to the tablet when the cracks appeared. He stumbled backward as something changed in his mind. The peaceful fog that had covered his thoughts for 5 years began to lift. At first, he felt confused, like someone waking up from a long dream. Then the memories hit him like a physical blow. He remembered his research, the experiments he had been working on before the tablets came. He remembered his excitement when he discovered new things, his joy when he solved difficult problems. He remembered his dreams of exploring the galaxy and learning about alien civilizations. "What have we done?" he whispered, his voice full of horror. "What have we done to ourselves?" All around the plaza, other people were having the same experience. A woman who had been a teacher remembered her students and began to cry. A man who had been an engineer remembered the machines he used to build and felt sick that he had abandoned them. Children who had grown up under the influence of the tablets suddenly felt emotions they had never been allowed to feel. Some people fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the return of their humanity. Others became angry, screaming at the sky as they realized how much of their lives had been stolen from them. A few simply stood still, their minds unable to process what was happening to them. The same scene played out on colony after colony. Across human space, the energy wave from the Liberation device reached every world connected to the Galactic Communication Network. Stone tablets cracked and went dark. People who had been peaceful for years suddenly remembered what it felt like to be truly alive. On Harmony Station, Ambassador Mina Lee felt the change like a punch to the stomach. The gentle contentment that had wrapped around her mind like a warm blanket was suddenly ripped away. She gasped and fell against a wall, her body shaking as suppressed emotions flooded back into her consciousness. She looked at the Zephyrian delegates with new eyes, seeing them not as wise teachers, but as the ones who had stolen 5 years of her life. The rage that filled her was so intense that she could barely speak. "You call this peace?" she shouted at them, her voice shaking with anger. "You turned us into slaves. You made us forget who we were." The Zephyrian leader's pearl-like skin flickered with what might have been surprise. "We freed you from your violent nature," it said. "We gave you the gift of peace. You gave us death," Mina shot back. "A living death where we forgot how to dream, how to hope, how to be human." Reports came in from all over human space as the awakening spread. Colony. After Colony threw off the influence of the tablets, their people remembered their capacity for both love and hate, for both creation and destruction. Some colonies chose to remain peaceful, but now it was their choice to make. The Zephyrian fleets began to move, their ancient ships heading toward the human worlds to stop what they saw as a dangerous outbreak of chaos. But humanity was no longer the tame species they had been controlling. Ships that had been gathering dust in spaceports roared to life, their crews remembering how to fight. Major Daeho Nam watched from the bridge of the Liberation Fleet's flagship as hundreds of human ships appeared around the Zephyrian mothership. "This is Major Nam to all human ships," he said. "Today we don't fight for conquest or glory. We fight for the right to choose our own path among the stars." The battle for humanity's soul was about to begin. The final battle took place in the Nexus system, where the Zephyrians had first created their peace treaties thousands of years ago. Giant stone monuments floated in space like mountains, their surfaces covered with writing in languages that no one spoke anymore. These were the first peace agreements, carved in stone when the galaxy was young. Fleet Admiral Hannah Cho stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance. Through the main window, she could see the combined human fleet taking positions around the Zephyrian homeworlds. The human ships were outnumbered 3-1, but Hannah was not afraid. The Zephyrian ships were built for keeping peace, not for fighting wars. The human ships had been quickly fitted with weapons that had not been used in decades, and they were ready to fight for their freedom. "All ships, hold your position," Hannah commanded over the radio. "We are not here to kill everyone. We are here to offer them a choice." The Zephyrians did not answer with words. Instead, they sent a wave of psychic energy that washed over the human fleet like an invisible tide. Captain Jiho Park felt it pressing against his mind. It was the same warm feeling he had experienced from the tablets, promising peace without struggle and rest without effort. "They're trying to control our minds again," Dr. Min-jae Ko reported from her station, "but our defenses are working." On the main screen, the image of the Zephyrian Prime appeared. It was an ancient being that looked like it was made of living crystal. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of enforced peace. "You bring chaos to a galaxy that has known only peace," the Prime said. "Your violence will destroy everything we have built." Admiral Hannah stepped forward so the Prime could see her clearly. "Your peace destroyed everything we were. You didn't end war. You ended choice. You didn't create harmony. You created a prison." "And what would you replace it with?" the Prime asked. "The chaos of your primitive emotions? The endless fighting that marked your species' early history?" "We would replace it with freedom," Hannah replied. "The freedom to choose peace when we want it and to choose conflict when we must. The freedom to be human." The battle that followed was unlike any in galactic history. The Zephyrian ships were huge and powerful, but their weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy. They had not fought a real war in thousands of years. The human ships were smaller, but faster. Using tactics that the peaceful galaxy had forgotten, human ships darted between the massive Zephyrian vessels like wolves hunting sheep. Their crews remembered the old military wisdom that in war, the side willing to take risks often wins. The Zephyrians fought with the slow, careful movements of beings who had forgotten what it meant to truly fight. But the real victory came not from weapons but from words. As the battle raged, human radio transmissions reached the Zephyrian worlds below. Liberation signals that Dr. Min-jae had developed began breaking through the ancient mind control, waking up Zephyrians who had been peaceful for so long they had forgotten what it meant to truly live. Engineer Youngsik Jang watched from his station as entire Zephyrian fleets began powering down their weapons. "They're stopping the fight," he reported in amazement. "The crews are refusing to attack us." On the surface of the Zephyrian homeworld, beings who had been docile for thousands of years began to remember their ancestors. These had been warriors and explorers who had once challenged the very stars. They looked at their stone tablets with new understanding, seeing them not as sacred objects, but as the tools of their own imprisonment. The Zephyrian Prime's crystal form flickered as its own mind control began to break. "What have you done to us?" it asked, its voice now carrying emotions that had been suppressed for ages. "We've given you back your choice," Admiral Hannah replied. "The same choice we're giving everyone. You can stay peaceful if you want to, but it has to be your decision, not one made for you by stones and mind control." The battle ended not with explosions, but with understanding. Zephyrian ships began sending surrender signals, but these were not the surrenders of a defeated enemy. They were the thanks of a people who had been freed from their own prison. In the days that followed, humanity and its allies began the long work of rebuilding galactic civilization. The stone tablets were not destroyed. Instead, they were placed in museums as reminders of what could happen when peace was valued more than freedom. In their place, humanity built monuments of steel and fire, not to glorify war, but to remember the eternal struggle between order and liberty. The galaxy entered a new age. It was messier than the old one, more dangerous, but also more alive. Species that had been peaceful for thousands of years began to rediscover their individual natures. Some chose to remain peaceful. Others embraced their warrior heritage. Most found some balance between the two. Dr. Suho Kim, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Reformed Galactic Council, stood before a group of young cadets from many different species. Behind him, a steel monument bore the words, "Here lies the peace of stones. May we never forget the price of freedom." "Remember," he told them, True peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice, the guarantee of choice, and the courage to fight for what's right when fighting becomes necessary. As the young beings return to their ships and colonies, carrying with them the hard-won wisdom of a galaxy reborn, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter. Humanity had carved its message in steel and fire across the cosmos, that peace without choice was no peace at all, and that sometimes the greatest act of love was to refuse to let others sleep in chains. The galaxy was free to choose its own destiny once more.